those of you who don't know me, I am Cheryl. I left an abusive marriage in 2011 and I was on my own then with no money, no plan and just two young boys. Tried going back to work, but back then you didn't have the flexibility, the freedom that I needed on being on my own with two young boys. So I set up Helping Financials, my accountancy business, as a way to work flexibly, to earn some money and to be around with the boys. That business has grown over the years, 12 and a half years almost, to a team of 6. So I now employ a team as well. And I know as an employer what privilege it is to look after a team, how to look after a team, how to be that person for them. And which is why I'm really passionate about working with workplaces to help them support those who are experiencing abuse. So obviously we're accountants, we want some numbers. So these are the latest ONS stats to March 2025. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men will experience abuse at some point in their lifetime. Domestic abuse does not discriminate. It can be any background, any race, religion, any sex. It can be anybody from any background. And the reality is, with those numbers, that there will be people in your team, there'll be lots of people here today, unfortunately, that will actually experience it. So it's all about noticing the signs and then responding safely. For some, going to work is a safe space, but unfortunately 75% of those experiencing abuse are actually targeted at work in various different ways. Yet less than 5% of businesses have anything in place to support somebody going through abuse. Most organisations don't have a policy problem, they have a confidence problem, or they just don't know what to do. So instead of being able to actually support and help, they could potentially make things worse. Domestic abuse doesn't stay up neatly at home, like in the box at home. It does follow you to work. Whether you're being targeted work or not, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect every single area of your life. And in finance teams, you can miss that, especially with like deadlines and things like that, pressure. It can be really hard to spot the signs. Sometimes it could look like a capability issue. It could look like an attitude problem. It could look like somebody's just not coping, but it could also be somebody just surviving and trying to get through the day the best they can. There's many different types of abuse. These aren't all of them, unfortunately, but there are obviously a lot of different types. The most common type people to think of when you think of the word domestic abuse is violence, but there's a lot more to it, unfortunately, these days. A couple of non-physical examples. You've got the Tinder Swindler. Who watched the Tinder Swindler on Netflix? Yep. So that's a really good example of economic abuse and financial abuse, and that shows the control and the power that he had over the women, trying to exert the money out of them. For me, I experienced most of those. But because the majority of my abuse wasn't actually physical, it was really hard for me to understand what was going on, and it wasn't talked about back then, so it wasn't that common, and I didn't really understand what was happening to me, and I didn't really have a reference point, so I minimised what I was going through, thought it was normal, and just forgot about it. But I think not knowing all the different types of abuse is one of the things that keeps people stuck, because they don't understand that they're actually going through that. So a lot of people would say, why doesn't she just leave? If it was that bad, she would just leave. If anyone hit me, I would leave. It's that just leave. So many people think it's easy to leave, but it's not actually very easy at all to leave. And leaving could actually be one of the most scariest, dangerous times for somebody to actually leave a relationship. What it boils down to, the fear of leaving is actually greater than the fear of staying, which for anyone who hasn't experienced it or had it touched it in their lives at all could feel like madness. Of course, why would it feel more scary? But there are so many different factors. The main two would be the fear and manipulation side, so what would happen if they left. They'll be having lots of threats and manipulation against them. So for example, I was told if I left, I would end up under the patio, I would see the children, I'd never survive, so on and so on. And then you've also got the practical reasons of why people stay, because as I said, I was told I will be able to survive. I didn't have a job, I didn't have an income, I didn't know how I was going to put food on the table for my 2 boys, I didn't know where we was going to live, things like that. So it comes also to that practical side of, well, if I leave, how will I be able to survive without him? And then you've also got things like where people are isolated from family and friends, so they've got no support, they've got nobody to help them. And for me, it was also that shame factor. I didn't want a failed marriage. I didn't want to be that person. So yeah, I stayed for a lot longer than I should have. It can take up to 7 times for somebody to leave. For me, it took about 4 attempts to actually get out. So if you are supporting anybody or you know anybody who's going through it, it's not going to be that easy for them to unfortunately just leave. So the better questions to ask: why did he abuse us? That puts the onus back on the abused themselves and makes them the target. Or how can we help her leave safely? And I am using the her and the him because that's my experience, but obviously it could happen male on male, female on female, and so on as well. So this is my response framework even, which would help somebody in a situation to actually how to handle what's going on. So spotting the signs, asking safely, focusing in on choice and confidentiality, and then if we can be the next steps. So as managers, we're not expected to fix anything. We can't. We're not expected to be a counsellor, refuge worker, or a solicitor. That is not our job. Our job as an employer is to spot the signs, to support somebody, and to point them in the direction of the organisations that are equipped to help them. So these are some of the signs that you might notice, and this could, obviously I've done it here as a workplace, but it could be friends and family as well. You might notice some of these signs. So specifically in the workplace, but also if you've got friends and family that are seem scared of their phone, so if they're getting messages or calls and they feel they have to answer them straight away, or if they miss a call or they get scared of the consequences of missing a phone call. It could be a partner turns up at work, which on the odd occasion probably won't mean a lot, might just be nice, but if they're repeatedly turning up at work and the person seems a bit anxious about that, then that could be a red flag as well. They could be receiving gifts, which again, on the odd occasion here and there, or our birthdays or special days, you wouldn't pick anything off it. But if it's repeated gifts out of the blue, again, that's another thing to look out for. You've then got isolation, so if somebody's seems like they're not going out anymore, they was really bubbly and outgoing, and now they're not so outgoing, there don't seem to be some socialising of a weekend and things like that, or they're not going out for work lunches where they would before, or they don't go out to team events. Why is that person suddenly not doing that? You've then got the obvious ones of people being late, or leaving dead on time, or staying longer after work because they don't want to go home, they're avoiding going home, and absences out of the blue. And again, the odd one here and there is general life, but if you're noticing a pattern, somebody doing this repeatedly, there could be something going on, and it's not a case of a performance issue or they need to sort out getting to work all the time. It could be that actually somebody's preventing them to get out of the house. They could be having their keys hidden so they can't actually get in the car because they don't know where the keys are. So it's all little things like that. And if somebody's in a remote team, they could be constantly on camera but with the camera off, so you can't see them, so they could be hiding bruising. So yeah, one of the things to note with remote people is if they're choosing their words carefully, or they see they're anxious or they're being watched, it could be that somebody's next to them or in front of them or around them trying to tell them what to do or say. You might be thinking, I've got an open door policy. Somebody can come and talk to me about anything, but an open door policy on its own is not enough, because domestic abuse is one of the topics that there's a shame attached to it. There's like a stigma of, oh, I can't say that, that is a taboo subject. So I always say that to create psychological safety, you need to actually name the topic as something that's safe to talk about, and having various different things and telling people that this is a safe topic to talk about will hopefully help them to open up and actually come talk to you. They're probably also being told you can't tell anybody. If you tell anybody, I'll do X, Y, Z. So again, it's another reason that people keep quiet and won't actually come and talk. So it's really important having awareness in your business, in your workplace, to say that actually we can talk about this here. This is domestic abuse. You are free to talk about that here. So I will go on a lot about open door policies. So I think they're not worth it. So if you do spot somebody and you think somebody is experiencing something, what I would say is don't go rushing in, all guns blazing. Find a quiet place to talk to somebody that's private, like in front of everybody else. Go out for a walk or something like that, and just ask them how they are. And it's not about saying, I think you're experiencing domestic abuse. It's just encouraging them to open up and have a conversation with you. Just find out what's going on, because it could be a whole manner of things. These signs that are shared may not just be for domestic abuse, it could be a whole manner of other things. They could have like a family member or something like that. So it's just staying professionally curious and finding out if they're okay, what's going on. It could take quite a few attempts for somebody to actually open up, again, because of the fear of what would happen if they actually said something, but also they may not feel that they're actually able to do so. So it could be a case of you need to ask somebody more than once how they're doing, and potentially be prepared for them to be upset as well when they do finally feel that they can talk to you. When they do open up, some really helpful things to say. I believe you is probably one of the most powerful things that you could say to somebody, because they're probably thinking that it's not real. They could be thinking, I'm being stupid, especially if they're being told as well, it's your fault. So yeah, I believe it's a really good one. Telling them it's not their fault and they're not alone is really good as well. Obviously, things to avoid is pushing, blaming them, and some things like that. So I know what I'm like. I always like to jump in and try and fix everything. So again, not expected to fix anything. Obviously, you want to keep this confidential and only the right people to know about it, but you can't promise that you're going to keep it confidential from everybody, especially if something happens at work where it's dangerous. You might need to call the police. If there's children involved and they're in danger, again, you might need to call social services or something like that. So don't promise secrecy you can't keep. Always agree safe methods of contact. It could be that you set up a code word. So if, for example, they are in a remote place, they may have a partner watching them and they may not be able to speak freely. So having a code word that you can drop into conversation will help to actually say, I need help. And then when keeping notes of conversations and things, keep it really factual. No opinions. Just literally, this happened, this was what was said, this is what they want to do next. Taking all the emotion out of it, because actually some of these records of these conversations can be used in evidence. So you need them to be as factual as possible to be able to actually secure a conviction. So I'm going to bring it to life a little bit. This is Grace. This is my AI avatar. Good old AI. So Grace is a bright young lady. She's usually reliable and on top of month ends and all of her work. But over the last few weeks, she has started being really jumpy with her phone. She is leaving exactly on time, and reception mentioned that her partner meets her after work every other day. So some not helpful things to say here would be you need to focus, or accusing or saying what's going on at home, that it's too direct and it's just going to push them away. But what would be helpful is saying you don't have to share any details. I'm here to help when you need it. So what we're doing as employers is actually opening the door and just saying, we're here to help, come to me when you're ready, kind of thing. Same Grace, but this time she works from home. So she starts, usually she's on camera, she's fine, she's bubbly, but she started turning a camera off on every single call. And she seems really, really quiet in meetings. When she does speak, it sounds like she's choosing her words carefully, she's being hesitant about what she's trying to say. Her work becomes inconsistent, and she's missing targets, she's missing deadlines, missing VAT returns. So some practical support options. So if somebody is experiencing abuse, time off and flexibility is one of the big things. Changing like hours, the location they work. So if they've got like a predictable pattern, they can be like stalked, because they'll know where they're coming and going. And it actually happened to one of my friends. Her abuser knew exactly what time she left work, was waiting in her car ready for an incident. So changing hours, shifting up locations and things like that can actually stop the things so predictable. Having a safety plan, so if they do turn up at work, what will happen? Changing bank details for payroll is a really, really simple and easy one. So if they are experiencing abuse, quite often that their partner would have control of the money, especially if it's going into a joint account. So just offering to change accounts to a new account or their own personal account, so they've got access to their own money, is very, very helpful. And then signposting to specialist support, because again, you're not meant to fix, but you can give them the specialist more that they need, which is here. There is lots, obviously, of organisations. There's some really great local ones as well, but these are all the national ones that are really, really good. So this is the framework that I work with businesses, and this is what I recommend as a way to actually put that support in place. So having a policy which gives clear guidance, so not just something that's going to be in a G drive or in a folder in the cupboard or something, but clear, practical guidance on how to support somebody, how to spot the signs, what business will actually offer as support, coupled with training, because a policy is a piece of paper. The training is what goes with it. So having that training, and then she's training your managers on how to respond, how to spot the signs, the things like that. And then having general staff awareness training as well, because again, it's a way to signal psychological safety. It's a way to say, we can talk about this, we're here for you and to support you. And then embedding it into culture. So making it visible at every step. So putting it into one-to-ones, just having a conversation as part of the one-to-ones, how are things at home? When somebody returns from maternity, how are things at home? Because maternity does actually increase the risk of domestic abuse. So all of that kind of thing, embedding it into your onboarding so that people know that support is available. And just generally throughout the year, refresher trainings and things like that. So if you do one thing after today, this is a way you can make it visible. So these posters are just generally raising awareness and sharing that some of the things that people might be experiencing, because again, people may not actually realise that they're going through it. So these questions are designed to actually tell somebody that what they're experiencing is normal, and then a QR code for the support help. These can go into toilets, notice boards, or if you're remote, they can go on Slack, like pins under general, like that, so that somebody knows that there is help if they need it.